come to Minara business, Minara Chamber, Minara Chamber, and also I'm trying to think whether I should even say that the business and professional women. Minara has a business professional group as well. Can someone put this thing off at the back? Okay, now we are clear. Can you come on? And I'd love to see your beautiful face. So, Sanaa, yeah, I was just saying that you are now on with the Minara Chamber of Commerce and also the MBPW, which is Minara Business and Minara Business Professional Women. We are so glad to have you. And I see that you've got a very good short CV, but you're doing a lot within that space of time. Now, and you're only 19 years old, and you're already an entrepreneur, which is great, you know, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
So I was looking at your, what you are doing, which is studying psychology and politics, you know. So what made you take politics? Is it politics or political science?
Yeah, political science.
Yeah, so maybe you should write that, not politics, because there's a subject called politics. But what made you take political science?
I've always been passionate about like the community and my surroundings. Like even in school, I was always part of those societies and those clubs. So and also because as a female, I am very passionate about female-centric movements and organizations, and also like Muslim female empowerment. So that is one of the major reasons I took political science, because I wanted to be capable and to be aware and educated about what it is that I want to do maybe later on, or even if I don't go into it, but I want to be knowledgeable in that sphere.
Okay, that's good, but I hope political science really gives you the in-depth of what you really want to do. But psychology is very good on the behavioral science, where you want to really empower or help people when you look at the behaviors of people. But it comes from civic pride, you know, it starts from helping people on the ground. And that's the way you get going towards wanting to empower not only Muslim people. I think we need to think broadly now and be more inclusive, that we want to assist more people, you know, disadvantaged people who haven't received or managed to get that kind of education as far as empowering them. Yeah, so good luck to that. What year are you? Second year? So the third year will be your final next year. Huh? So you're doing it all. Is it all by virtual?
Yes, I have a lot of online things. One of my other courses.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Most of it is online.
Hello. Are you there, Sanaa?
Yeah, I'm there. Can you hear me?
I think, Amina, we're having a problem there with the. Can you hear me, Sanaa?
I can hear you.
Yeah. So I was telling, I don't know where I stopped with you. Where exactly? It's a bit difficult when we are cut off like this, because I asked a question. I don't know what it is now that I have.
Asked if I am doing it online.
Yeah, whether you're doing it online, virtually, or what, you know.
Yeah, a lot of it is online. For one of my electives, I do have to go in, but it's like for 1 or 2 classes a week. So it's mostly online.
Okay, so I see you're a small-time entrepreneur because you like running the, you know, honey business, and you run an apiary. And
yes.
How is it, the Beelal honey? Why you kept the name Beelal? Is it your brother, dad?
We kept the name Bilal because my father's name is Bilal,
Okay.
but it's spelled with not B-E-E. We made that into like a pun
Biz-
thing.
Yeah. So what made you get into honey? That's what I asked, yeah.
What made me get into honey was actually since we were young, we always used to have honey. My dad always used to bring different types of honey for us, like from wherever he went. And so it was always like we'd always just have honey. So when we started looking at like local honey, then we found that there's the famous honey that's just so rare and it's just amazing. So that's what really got me into honey. Just like, and also in the Quran it's mentioned that honey is the like healing powers for everything. So that was just like always a family thing for us.
I recall that in Cape Town there was a Mr. Honey. That's not your dad by any chance, Mr.
Oh
Honey.
no.
And he came to KZN. He went right up to Stanger, and he promoted the whole aspect about how honey is a very good. It's very good for the system and any ailments that one has. So it's not your dad.
No.
Okay. So you are the second person in Cape Town who is interested in honey, and Mr. Honey was another person as well. So now the little I know about how honey is being extracted from the cone. So do you all wear those special hats and go and take the cone? Oh, the cones are absolutely tasty. I go to Dubai just to eat the honeycomb, and they're fresh and they just brought there. It's absolutely beautiful to eat, tasty. So tell me about that, how do you all actually do the process of taking the honey out of the honeycomb and going there amongst the bees and picking the honeycomb? It must be very interesting. What inspired you? Yeah.
It is. It's actually like a wonderful experience. I've been on quite a few times when they've actually harvested the honey. So the honey bees, they have the hive, and we place the hives on the farm, so that they're able to get their nectar from surrounding trees and bushes and flowers. And then what we do is in a year you can get 2 to 3 harvests where you can go and take the comb piece out and then get the honey from there. So when we go, usually you have to wear the suit, otherwise the bees will sting you. My father has been stung a lot of times, not me, luckily. And then once you you have to first get a smoke. We have like a can of smoke, and then you smoke the hives so all the bees fly away, because whenever bees see smoke, they think it's a fire. And to protect themselves, the first thing they do is literally fly away because they won't be able to survive the fire. So when we take the smoke there, that triggers them to fly away, and that makes it much easier for us. We obviously have to wear gloves and makes it and face protection and everything. Then take the comb pots out. We cover the hive again, and once the smoke is gone, the bees will come back into the hive because the queen bee is trapped inside right at the bottom. So the bees won't be able to go anywhere without their queen bee. And then once we take the honeycomb pieces, then what we use, there's different methods of getting the honey out, but what we have a machine. So we have the hive, the comb part of it, sorry, and we put the stacks of comb in the machine, and then the machine whips it, and all the honey literally just is whipped out of the honeycombs. And then what ends up happening is that the honey will come out and the comb will stay behind. We use the comb either in the honey or we use it to start out new hives and make new plank things for new hives so that we can expand the hive collection that we have. And then what we do after that is just filter the honey once, because there might be like a dead bee or maybe a stick or something, and that's the main process that we use. And then we
It's
just
so
bottle it.
very interesting. It has its own formulas, kind of a style, to do things. I see that you all are four sisters. Are they all involved in this whole thing?
They're quite involved, yes. My two younger sisters are quite young, so they're obviously not as involved, but they love coming along to the market when we have a market every Saturday. So I go there. They like coming with, and when we go to the farm to harvest, they just love coming with, looking at what we're doing. But my other sister Noor, the one after me, she helps me a lot with social media and like emailing and things like that. She's very handy with that, so she helps me a lot.
Oh, so looks like within the entrepreneurship, you all got yourself nicely categorized. One is doing the IT for social media, and then you should get the other two sisters to do maybe who does the marketing beside the social media? Do you all go, or should I say, which shops do you all provide the honey to?
We have a few stockists around like in our neighborhood and some surrounding neighborhoods. We're looking to obviously stock more, but since we only really started trading towards the end of last year and really took off the beginning of this year, we're still looking for more stockists. And we're also looking to expand the amount of hives that we have so that we have more honey that we can stock.
Yes. So from every hive, say one hive, do you get one bottle full of honey when you harvest it?
So for every hive, the thing is, in a hive, there's like 50,000 to 60,000 or maybe more bees in one hive. And the hive isn't big. It's like a folder. That's how high it is. So every bee makes in their lifetime, because a bee only is alive for 40 days. So every bee in their lifetime will only make 1/12 of a spoon of honey. So that's why there's so many bees in a hive. And if the bees aren't fed sugary syrups, because what happens in many farms is that they want more honey, so they'll keep sugar syrups or sugar surrounding the hives so that the bees go there and make honey, because the honey will still be pure because the bees are making it, but the bees have the source of sugar as their food, and because that's not nutritional, it will kill the bees or weaken their immune systems. So if you're not using sugary syrups, because with sugary syrups your hive can produce about, let's say, 30 kilos of honey. One hive can produce 30 kilos of honey, but if you don't use those syrups and it's like organic and natural, our hives will give 7 to 14 kilos of honey.
And I also noticed that your dad had traveled a lot all over the world, and he brought the honey to the house. And did y'all do any reading on the fact that diabetics should not take honey, or is it good for them? Is it not?
There's a lot of research that we've like done into that. I've read up a lot about that. There's many different stances that people take, but the one main stance is because honey is a simpler form of sugars, it's glucose and fructose, it will break down much easily than sucrose, the normal sugar and golden syrup or anything that we find in our shops and in our kitchens. Because of that aspect, it's much more better and more healthier for diabetics to have honey instead of like sugar or anything as such. And obviously, because you're diabetic, you can't have large amounts, and you can't have large amounts. But the one thing that I did learn, and I experienced, not myself, my grandfather experienced it, is if you have a spoon of honey every night, because the liver is what makes the glucose, the glycogen, sorry, which is it controls the glycogen and insulin. So when you have, and the liver's capacity is really small. So when you're sleeping, it gets depleted and your liver starts, and it has to feed your brain glycogen all the time, which is what you get from sugars. Then what happens is they start using up your muscle protein to make that sugar to feed your brain. So when you have a spoon of honey at night, you're fueling your liver, and your liver will use the sugars from that honey to feed your brain, and it uses up that honey immediately because your brain uses up that much sugar during the night when you sleep for like 7 hours, let's say. So back to the diabetic question, it really depends on each person. A lot of diabetic people that are in my family that I know of, that I've given the honey to, if they have only a spoon every night, then their sugar levels actually over a few weeks stabilizes, but that means that they have to be controlling their diet how they do normally. So in moderation, it's fine, but obviously it depends from every person, and I'm not like a medical doctor, so I wouldn't be able to say properly.
Yeah, no, I think you have enough knowledge so far. You did enough research, and it would be nice to do more in this, so that when you market the product, you are able to even tell the diabetics exactly, how it works in the system. I must say, I'm very impressed with the knowledge that you have you got on it. Do you think you have any competition with other, besides that Mr. Honey that I know, who's doing extremely well, and he goes to all the provinces. He also married one of my cousins, I think, when he came to Stanger. So, yeah, what about any competition in this market?
I would say obviously there is competition in terms of if there's more than one business selling the same product. But I think what is important is that you're able to distinguish yourself in the market, and you're able to prove that your product is of good quality, and that that. And also in specifically with honey, the sad thing is that we don't really have any regulations or any strict regulations that say that before a shopkeeper is allowed to sell honey, they need to know that that what they're selling as honey is pure and organic, not organic, but pure, and it isn't adulterated. Because what is happening is that when adulterated honey, they call it honey, it's actually corn syrup coming from other countries or even in South Africa, and it's really bad because those sugary syrups and corn syrups can be sold at a much cheaper price. It's much cheaper to produce because, as I said before, you can only get 2 to 3 harvests a year of from one hive, and it requires a lot of effort to maintain the bees. So when this sugary syrup is brought into a market and is like less than half the price of what actual pure honey is, it cuts out many of the beekeepers and people in the honey industry, and they're forced to essentially to survive. They're forced to maybe feed their bees honey and sugars, or go out of business. And it's really sad with that. A lot of beekeepers and honey businesses, they're more into surviving and keeping up with that fake honey market than actually building competition with other like-minded honey people. And it's really sad that that's happening, and that many people are consuming honey and they think, right, this is what's good.
So in a way, lots of times we buy honey and we find, there's so much of sugar at the bottom. So that's the adulterated honey, which sugar in order to harvest the honey, so that you can have a constant supply of honey, as you explained. Because
I
lots of
wouldn't
times,
say that.
and you find
Yeah,
sugar at the bottom.
at the bottom. But the thing is, natural raw honey will eventually crystallize, and you will find the sugars at the bottom. Um, that's the difficult part, is because in the hive, temperature is maintained at 37 degrees. But when you're in a room temperature, if the room isn't 37 degrees, so the honey will eventually, it should crystallize, but it really depends on, like, if every honey has its own ratio of glucose to fructose, which is what causes it to crystallize and to form those sugar crystals. That is why it's really difficult to know, like, what am I consuming? Is it like real honey, or is it adulterated? Because before, once when my father bought honey, the honey that we had was crystallizing and we were finding the sugars at the bottom. And I thought the same thing. I was like, this is fake honey because they put sugar inside. But once I researched more into it, I found that that's not necessarily the case.
So then, in short, tell me, how does one differentiate between adulterated honey and pure honey? Pure honey.
Yeah, it's really, really difficult to differentiate, but I think one of the things you should look for in labels is if they say product of and or the multiple countries. Because if it comes from multiple countries, the chances are that one of those countries has adulterated their honey. If it's blended with different types of honeys, we don't know the source because they don't write on the bottle 20% South African honey, 30% this country honey. And that is one of the red flags, and is like they will mix a lot of fake honey with real honey to try and cover up their tracks and stuff like that. So it's really important to see, is this blended? Do they mention which countries it's coming from? Or if it just says and or, and they don't really mention many countries or their exact amounts, then you should be wary of those companies. That's the one thing that I really look out for.
So tell me, how did your, I would say, your business go on the honey sales? Did you have any challenges there? I mean, does it go well? Do they like Beelal honey? Is it tasty? It's lovely. It's different from the other honeys. I'm going to look for Beelal honey all over.
Okay, thank you. Yes, we have faced a few challenges because we test our honey, because we wanted to put it in like big health shops and such stockists. It was important for us that we are testing to show that, look, this test says it's 100% pure and raw and organic. And also because we get so little honey, it isn't feasible for us to sell it at the price of adulterated honey. It just isn't, because you can only get 2 or 3 harvests a year, and 3 is if we're lucky. So it does cost a lot to be in like the proper honey business, like without feeding your honey and your bees anything, making sure that the bees are healthy by not giving them extra, maybe antibiotics or anything, because that weakens their immune system actually. And it's just and then what really was the big thing we saw is that for us to be feasible and viable, our honey was a bit more expensive, because we were testing it and we were ensuring that this is 100% and this is good quality honey. That's why we sent it to the honey awards, and on a global scale it got from 95.5 to 100%, which is platinum, to show that this honey is amazing, we're not doing anything to it, and it's 100% pure. But then before we sent it to the awards, when we would go to stores and things, people were very hesitant to take us in because of that. But once someone bought our honey, then they would buy again, because when you taste it, it's just amazing, because you can like literally taste the nectar. Like you would think you're eating from like the flowers or something. And then once we got the awards, then a lot of stockists that we went to previously came to us and said, we want to stock your honey. And I was like, but this is the same honey from before. The only difference now is it has an award. So in terms of that, the award really changed a lot of things for us. And the sales have always been good, mashallah. But the sales really took a spike up in this past month.
So you're doing extremely well with that. Say
Yeah.
since you say that it takes time for the harvesting and all. So if I, in a month or in a year, how many bottles do you provide or produce?
So it depends on how many hives we have. At the moment, we have 200 hives. So that would be, let's say, and what we do is because we only have one farm, so we get our hives, and what we do is we work with the local farmers around us, and then we ask if we can place our hives on their farms, just because we have to, otherwise the nectar is going to finish up and the bees won't have enough food. So every hive, let's say if we get 10 to 12 kilos, which is on the good side, we'd have like 2,000 to 2,400 kilos of honey. So depending on how you package it, so let's say if you package it in 500 grams, you'd get like 5,000 bottles, 4,800, 5,000 bottles.
That's interesting. So you must be very, very busy all the time, man.
Yeah.
200 hives you'll have. Where do you store that? Do you have a big yard at the back, or you have taken a farm, or what is it?
We live in Cape Town in residential area. Our farm isn't here. Our farm is 200 kilometers away from where we live. So we have a small farm there, and we place the hives there or in collaboration with other farmers. And because you really only need to go there every once in a while, we obviously have someone on the farm looking after the hives at all times, ensuring that there's no animals coming or anything. And the reason, like, we could have placed it closer, but the reason we placed it so far away is because there aren't any other commercial farming. Because like in Stellenbosch and like close areas, they have the wine farms, the grape farms, strawberry farms, and a lot of these farms, they use fertilizers and insecticides, pesticides, whatever it is that they use. And when a bee goes and forages on those, let's say, flowers, they're also consuming the fertilizer, the insecticide, the pesticide, and that's what's going to come into your honey. So, and it will still be considered pure because it comes from the bee, but it really isn't, I wouldn't say it's the best honey, because you are consuming those unsafe things. And so that's the reason we had to put it like far away from commercial farming, so that when the bees are flying and getting the nectar, they aren't exposed to those insecticides and fertilizers and things, chemicals.
Sanaa, I never heard of that name before. It's very unusual, eh?
My name?
What's your other sister's name? Yeah, Sanaa. Never heard of Sanaa. Tell me your sister's names. Are they also different? Let's see. One is.
So after me is Noor.
Are you the eldest?
Yeah, I'm the eldest. And then it's Noor, Ilham, and Asma.
Oh, Ilham. And?
Asma. Asma, I think, is the most common name.
Common, yeah. So tell me, in your daily life, when you wake up in the morning and you have your breakfast, so the honey is kept there for all of y'all to dip into it and put it on your toast. I can just imagine that.
That's exactly what I had for breakfast today. Can you hear me?
I didn't hear you. Sorry, I just had to go be off. Yeah.
Oh,
So
I said, yeah,
do
sorry.
you make it and have some honey on it? What do you do?
Today, this morning, I just had honey on toast. We have a lot of, because we have so many like harvests and hives, we actually keep like a bottle of each harvest. So in our kitchen, we have like an entire cupboard just with different types of honey. So our snacks is honey on toast.
And what about the cone? Do you eat the cone as well?
Yes, I really like the cone of the comb. Um, we have some of that as well. The comb is really difficult in the sense that we have to cut it and place it in the jars, and we usually use the wax to make more hives. So we have a little of that, and I like eating that. And once what I did was I tried making like a lip balm or some sort. So I tried melting the comb and putting some oils in it. It was really fun. I really enjoy like the comb aspect of.
What? Yeah. What about they say that you must put honey on the face as a face mask? Have you tried that?
I haven't. I tried to try it a few times, but it was just so sticky on my face, and I'm just too. I can't really handle having a lot in my face, so it didn't work out for me. But my younger sister, no, she uses it regularly with honey, turmeric. So yeah, that's what she uses a lot more.
Mm. Maybe one day you have to start thinking of some kind of a honey foundation. You must get more into it.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's quite challenging out there, but
yeah,
it's nice to research and do your own thing and have a factory whereby honey can be used for many other avenues, the face or, I mean, they won't take it all the way it is, but
yeah,
possibly to thin it a bit and the actual ingredient is good for the face and the lips, I hear, lipsticks
yeah.
are made. So I don't know how we are with time because Amina, you still on? And many minutes we have.
Yeah, we can round up if you're done with the questions.
Yeah. Also, let me ask Sanaa that put your face back. I just love to talk to you when I look at you. I'm very impressed with you, Sanaa. Honestly, the name, the honey, and it's Beelal's honey. It's fantastic, and you have done extremely well as a very young girl at the age of 19 to get into entrepreneurship. So, what advice would you give to all the ladies out there, whoever is going to be listening to this most enterprising business that you and your sisters that have taken on?
My advice would be to just to to never give up, because whenever you think like, oh, this is not going to work out, if you just put in the more effort, put in the hard work, it eventually will have to come right. You will find another way of doing it, but it will eventually, something will work out for you. And also just start. If you never start, then you won't know like the potential something has. Like, if, because for a lot of time we had just considered, let's do this honey business, let's start selling honey, but we never actually started. And once we started, then we just expanded and grew. So I think the main thing is to just start from somewhere. It doesn't have to be on a large scale. You just have to start somewhere, and you'll see that if I do this, it's going to grow this way. And yeah, and also if you're also studying at the same time, another thing I is very important for me is time management, because then you'll get overwhelmed with, what must I do now, or I have so many things to do. Yeah, those are the advice that I would give to anyone trying to start off, and not giving up, and just having a good work ethic.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Sanaa. And Sanaa Khan, with the company name called Beelal Honey of Cape Town. And maybe when I come to Cape Town one day, I'm going to look for Beelal Honey. And just before you go off, which stores do you have them in Cape Town? So my daughter lives there. Maybe I can tell her to buy Beelal Honey, you know.
Okay, so we have at Kenilworth Center, we have it at A&H there, and we also have it at Savants and Khan's and Spice City. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
All right. So your message out there to all the ladies that get onto the job and do it and take the plunge. And only when you're in it, you will get to know whether you are good at that business or not, instead of opting out into it. Thank you so much, Sanaa Khan. And maybe one day when we do have our conference, we are going to invite you so that you can motivate and to the young girls out there that although it's a very tough business, but you all are doing it, and you're getting a lot of interest in it. It's inspiring you, and it's also bringing in money, maybe slowly at a time, but soon, maybe 10 years from now, you are going to be one of those real honey ladies, the four sisters and your dad. Thank you very much, and regards to you and your family, and Allah's blessings to all of you.